to the door. Um, he must have rang the bell. I didn't hear him. And I got down there and it was a note on the door. I have to go to Staples to get my computer. And I'll tell you, all right. So we are live streaming on YouTube and we are here on ACIM Gathered for A Course in Miracles. And grateful for y'all here with Thankful Thursday. And Dove, Sharon, and Lorri, the mic is all yours.
Well, thanks, Lynn. And if you only got your computer last night, you're doing a lot better than I ever would have, being able to have it up and running and everything coordinated this morning. Um, so thank you for all of the administrative stuff you do. I would go crazy. I just don't like computer stuff, and that's why I don't do a whole lot. Um, so good morning to Thankful Thursday crew, and Carrie's here, and that's really early in California there, Carrie. And we've got Cher and Lynn and Dove and Sharon and Karen and Mickey. And we're actually on lesson 170, but I'm going to go backwards a little bit to a few passages in lessons 168 and 169 that I love. So 168 is your grace is given me, I claim it now. And this lesson was very important for me at a very, very difficult time in my life about, over 15 years ago now. It was very dark, very difficult, and I had to go to a difficult meeting. And that morning, or what I flipped to in the book, was this lesson. And so it was so reassuring for me because I was terrified of what I was going through. And the lesson on the grace and being able to rely on that. And in particular, excuse me, this paragraph 2, if you but knew the meaning of his love, hope and despair would be impossible, for hope would be forever satisfied, despair of any kind unthinkable. And I have leaned on that line many, many times in my life since then. And the cycle of hope and despair, I've noticed, is an ego cycle. So we'll get our goals and we'll feel hopeful, and there's something here in life that we can do, and we get all at least this is what the ego in me does, gets all charged up and on a new adventure, and then only later on to be disappointed in it, which is of course the ego's motto of seek but do not find. And so this hope and then despair, like, oh, nothing works. Hope and despair, over and over and over again. I've had that countless times. And always, but the good thing about it is it's coming back to the part of, but the meaning of God's love. God is the only thing that makes me happy in this life. And it's okay to enjoy health. It's okay to enjoy money. It's okay to enjoy relationships. But within all those things, or among all those things, what brings us peace? It's that present moment with God. My only peace is found in God. My only love is found in God. My only joy is found in God. And and I'm so, so incredibly grateful for that lesson. And yesterday, I had a wonderful shift in perception that was just like, whoa, I just love these shifts in perception when you see something differently and you go, oh my gosh, I never saw that before. Because every morning I get up and I say, I wonder what amazing, joyous, incredible, beautiful shifts in perception will happen today. Well, the one that happened yesterday was where I started being grateful, as lesson 195, Love is the Way I Walk in Gratitude, says. I'm grateful for myself. I'm grateful for the capital S self. I'm grateful that I am as God created me. And it's not that I haven't been grateful for that many, many, many times. I have frequently. But what I would often do is say, I am so grateful that this world is not real. I am so grateful that I'm not the dream character Lorri. I'm so grateful that all these traumas are not, the truth. Well, what I noticed is that I needed those affirmations, those denials of the truth. I needed to say it that way, but that there was a subtlety there of when I say I'm so grateful that this world is not real, that I'm subtly making the world real even when I say that. And so I realized the shift in perception was just stick with the gratitude for what is real. I am so grateful for truth. I am so grateful for life. I am so grateful that I am as God created me without having to say anything about the world because it isn't real. And I don't have to even focus on it, even in the subtlest, slightest way of denying its presence to get to what I really am grateful for. And that just felt huge. Like, oh my gosh, I don't have to say that. And then this morning in meditation, I I got to the throat chakra. I was doing meditations on a meditation on the chakras. I got to the throat chakra and it felt tight and closed and I immediately thought of all my judgments about society and politics and the news and how I've had those ever since I can remember. You know, being in 20 years old, getting out of college and going, boy, is this world screwed up. This world is so screwed up. I don't like it. I don't want to engage in this. I don't like the emphasis in the media on the three lower chakras, you know, the violence and the sex and the money and the power and the games and the cruelty. It's like, no, 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 no. I do not like this. And but also recognizing that's the ego opinion and I don't need that. I don't need it. So no matter what I say about the world, it's all an opinion and I don't need that. I don't need to do that. I can express from that throat chakra, I can express truth, which brings me to lesson 169, where it says, we say God is, and we cease to speak. For in that knowledge, words are meaningless or whatever it says. It's like, God is. And that's what I can be thankful for. God is, life is, light is, love is, health is, wholeness is, oneness is, truth is. And so when the second half of the workbook says words will become less important now, words will mean little now, those little two-line things, God is, truth is, just bring me right here into love and into wholeness. And it's like, and it's with every breath. And that's what I'm starting to experience more and more. The thinking mind is going to chatter away, but I don't have to listen to it. And I can come back right here, right now to God is. And that's the meaning of his love that breaks that cycle of hope and despair. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to you, Sharon.
Thank you, Lorri. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to go to the 170 today. There is no cruelty in God and none in me. You know, when you listen to Ken Wapnick, and I think everybody in this group does listen to Ken, you know, he basically says, look at how much you don't want it, you know? And there's a part in this mind that says, oh no, this is real. You're this body. And then I go back and say, the mind can't know what I am. Where before I might have said, well, I know who I am. I'm Sharon. But that Sharon is a shadow in the mind. So it's kind of like coming back to realize that I can observe this whole dream. And is it insane? It's mighty insane, but it's quite beautiful when you look at it from the eyes of love. You know, if you focus on Mother Nature, you are so in the now because nature is what we are. You know, I mentioned that I went to Zuma's group on Saturday, Science of Mind, and I loved the people. And they just call God nature. That's what I picked up anyway, you know, in the group. And I've seen that in other teachings, Eastern teachings, because nature, this body belongs, like if you walk barefoot in the grass and ground yourself, it's just, you always feel there's a resonance in that, the ground of being. And yet the stories that go swirling around the head are just that. I mean, the mind doesn't know what I am. And I heard Rafi say that. I think it was on Tuesday. That is really a very good thing to say. Just come here right now. Be here now. Ram Dass has a book like that. But in any case, we all know that the ego loves to be cruel. But, I never thought I was cruel as an ego. I thought I was a nice ego. Oh, I'm sorry. What happened to you, Guy? Come here. You want to come up here? Come here. Oh, he fell off his chair. Okay, come here, love. Wonder what happened here. It's like half my screen. Oh, I'm going to shut it because I don't know what happened. Anyway, so, and could I be cruel? Hell yeah, I can be cruel. Because everything that we think, everyone else is getting those thoughts. So there can't be one son of God that isn't insane. We all know that. And I was like contemplating this morning how hard that is for people that have never studied this stuff. They would be like, what are you talking about? You see this? You see that? But the years or the way Spirit is bringing me to the present moment is a gradual unfolding. Do I still have judgment? Well, I did express on Tuesday that I call her my daughter-in-law. They're not married yet, but she got mad at me for something. And instead of reacting, I, at this point, just stop and wait to listen. Stop. Just stop. You can't be fighting with your own projections. I could say, oh, well, that was disrespectful. I can't believe it. Blah, 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 blah. All of that is garbage. It is playing in the sandbox, and it is dirt. And what do I want right here, right now? I want to be loved, and love is all encompassing. So he's saying, Ken, in this lesson, this is an important lesson where Jesus returns to a discussion of the ego strategy that culminates in its arsenal of defenses. And see, what I'm seeing in myself is not all, but some defenses have fallen away, And it's funny because I always thought, well, he can't talk to me. That's when I'm standing up for nothing. Because you don't want to retaliate because you're attacking yourself. So the lesson is thus similar to what we discussed before in 135, 136, and 153. If I defend myself, I'm attacked. Why is that? When I was fighting my ex-husband in a divorce, I had headaches. I mean, everything you can imagine because I was in attack mode. And once I'm in attack mode, he's just another one of my projections. So I have to own it all. And when we originally chose the ego over God's love, separation over atonement, we made a decision for individuality instead of unity. Now, isn't that funny that we all go through this process? And the one thing that I really feel has helped me is the way the lessons reiterate everything that we've learned. And it is a gentle process. But my ego was scared of it. Of course it was. It's not my ego, it's the ego, because there's no my anything. But the ego mind is kind of like a mind that really likes to be cruel, likes to hurt, likes to judge. What if I don't know anything? What if I come to a place where I say, I just don't know? No one can argue with you there. You can't have any, they always have a saying, opinions are like blank, blank, right? And our opinions are just concepts. No, I don't like everybody, in form, but yet I don't see form now. I'm looking at Christ. Form is meaningless, and my meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. And so if I don't like somebody in form, the higher self will just say, go back to the truth, go back to the truth. So there's still defenses. And I would guess, until I'm out of this body, that there might be defenses through the experience. But you see, the character is nothing. So when I put my eyes on truth, I'm back where I belong. And I don't need to, as Dove Fishman always says, masturbate. It's mind masturbation because you're just doing it with yourself. You're not able to. There's nobody out there. You know how long that's taken me to see? and to remind myself sometimes. I still do. Of course I do. So when we originally chose ego over God, separation over atonement, we made a decision for individuality, not unity. The ego feared we would recognize our mistake. And that's what's funny about the ego. We give the ego all the power it has. So what I had thought was really an accomplishment was to make sure that he paid, that kind of thing, right? Because I don't want to be this little wimp. Actually, it's a Pollyanna is what you want to be. And I had my second sponsor in the 12 steps told me that, Sharon, just remain a Pollyanna. And that is really like, you just want everybody to just be happy. How can that happen? Well, just stay and be, right? So, you know, there is fear in this mind for to completely go up. Like as the course says, you don't want to completely go up and there'll be no you anymore. I don't know the exact words, but what is the you? Who is the you? If you really see, there is no you. The you is the one you with a capital Y. It's the infinite self, and we are all free every moment of our lives. But again, this is our classroom. And, classrooms that Suzanne de Kaiser had written me saying, am I still in, my classroom for politics? I hear my mind having opinions, but I'm not gravitating towards it. There's something that shifted in me that said, this is a waste of time. And it really is, because in the end, it's already over. We made it through, we're home, and everything's okay. The necessities, he talks, Ken Wapnick, in his teachings, and I noticed that Keith has told me over I only used to talk to him on Messenger, but he would just sit with his lessons. Like right now, I have Ken Wapnick's journey through the text. I have his journey through the workbook. And what I always loved about Ken is he always shows us how much we don't want it. And that makes me alert to why would I not want to be free? What am I getting out of being this character? And the character is just slowly but surely just laying back and saying, I don't know what to do anymore. I think I'll just be quiet. And that's what happens to the ego quite a bit. So with that, would anybody like to share before I turn it over to Dove? Because being cruel is something that, I remember several times in my life I was very cruel.
I'd like to ask a question of the group and ask a question of Dove. When you talk about it's a gentle process and everything, I've been rereading Suzanne Segal's Collision with the Infinite. And I read that about 10 years ago, and I couldn't understand why she had been involved in transcendental meditation, even been a teacher of it, and had done all these spiritual practices. But when she was that person who's walked on the bus and all of a sudden all sense of separate self dropped away. And so she was faced with emptiness and couldn't find the ego self. And then later in the book, she mentions this time in my rereading of it, I see that she says, well, Maharishi and the TM movement didn't teach about no self. And I thought, well, that's interesting because to me, all of the Eastern teachings that I've ever read have all focused on letting go of the separate ego self. But she had this talk about cruelty, 10 years of panic attacks because she didn't know what happened to her. And even back then, 10 years ago, I went, how could she not have known what had happened to her when she was involved in spiritual teachings? Um, so anyway, I'm just throwing that out there. And Karen's raising her hand. And then
But I want to say one thing. I read the book. I love it. It's one of my very favorite books. And I just want to say this. She never had an intention of waking up. She just wanted peace. I've read the book actually twice. And the thing that I give so much gratitude to is that she dealt with this in a very stoic way. She had gotten pregnant. She had awful, awful anxiety. So in the transcendental, again, we all know there's layers of this. So she really didn't witness herself as a awakened being until she met, and I forget the guy, but I've been to his teachings too. But she was a phenomenal teacher for me to see that this process, because I'm going to say this, Liz Cronkite had a terrible awakening. She had 2 years of absolute darkness, and yet she was probably one of the best teachers in the course that I've ever listened. I've known her for, 20 years, and I have to say, so we don't know anything. We don't know, like right now, I'm in peace. Does that mean I'm going to always be in peace? Well, I can't know that because there's only one of us here. So as an individual mind, yes, I can watch my mind. I can take it. But anyway, Lorri, I wanted to hear Karen now share, but I wanted to say that that's one of my favorite books. I love that book. I loved what Suzanne wrote in it. It was helpful. So there you go, Karen. There you go, pretty girl.
Thanks, Sharon. Thank you, Lorri, too. I love what you shared as well. And what came to my mind, Lorri, when you said that, and I don't know her and I don't know her book, so I'm not saying this is what happened to her. But Ram Dass, I found out recently, some of you may know this, but a friend of mine is reading his book, Still Here. And in that book, he says that he had many, many signs before he had that stroke, many, and he ignored them. He ignored them because I am not a body. I am free. I am as God created me, is what his, not his mantra, but basically his mindset was. So he ignored his body. He did not listen to his body. And he ended up having the stroke. And so it was a gift for him. It ended up being a gift for him because then he realized what he did. He learned through that experience. And that's why I agree. I say I never deny my body. I never deny, and I know most of you don't either. I mean, all of you don't really. None of you do that I know of. I think that denying the body, as the Course says, is an unworthy form of denial. And I think the body is the classroom. The body is the classroom. And that is, for me, the gentle process of, because I wasn't kind to my body. I wasn't kind to myself before A Course in Miracles. And I still had to learn how to be kind to myself. And so I think that is the process, being gentle and kind, not being cruel, not condemning, not judging. I like what Sharon said about observing. Observing is so important. I wrote something down this morning. I was looking through the Course at different sections, and a lot of interpretation was coming up for me, how we interpret things, and that made me think of what Lorri was sharing, because it's our interpretation. It's not the truth. Only truth is true. God is, and everything else is interpretation. But I wrote down, the sooner I choose the Holy Spirit as my teacher, the more and more it becomes a habit. Miracles are habits. That's miracle number 5. They are habits. And the result is that the more I recognize I am the dreamer, I am the observer, I am not the dream figure, the sooner that I listen to the Holy Spirit, the sooner I recognize I'm observing with the Holy Spirit. I'm being gentle. That's the process. If I can do that, I'm good. Otherwise, if I become the dream figure, I am cruel, I am judgmental, I am blaming, I am totally out of my mind. So the observer, I think, Sharon, is so important, and that is such a big part of the gentle process. Thanks.
Dove, you're muted.
Hi, Karen. I wanted to ask you, what is it that Ram Dass learned after his condition? Tell me.
He learned that his body is, it's important to listen to your body. He ignored his body because even though he knew he was not the body, he ignored the body. So he wasn't listening to the body. So he learned to listen to the body and not deny the body. As the Course says, it is an unworthy form of denial.
Okay.
Does that help?
Thank you. Yeah. So, because I was listening to you, I found that quote by Ken Wapnick on the body, which speaks to the same thing that you were just confirming. I put it up here in the chat. If you deny the body, you're denying the only, keyword is only, the only textbook that Jesus can use to teach us his lessons. It's like saying to a teacher, listen, here's a school, but there's no classroom, there's no textbook, and there's no students. I want you to teach. Now, our life experience and our body is all part of the textbook, the classroom, and the chalkboard in which things happen. Without it, I mean, you cannot come to this world without a body. So the purpose of coming here, as lesson 193 says, all things, key word is all things are lessons God would have me learn. So the idea of I am not a body, true, but you have to start with having a body and then denying the denial. So when we were spirit and we a tiny mad idea entered into the tiny mad idea entered into the universe, and the Son of God remembered not to laugh. He saw a belief, a lie, that he was different and separate from the Father. Now, that's actually what I was going to speak on. I went into the history of Open Minds, which is now ACIM Family, and you're right, Lorri, today's lesson 170, and of course, everyone's talking about there's no cruelty in God and there's none in me. And I found something that I had posted a few years back, and I put it up here in the chat, and I'll read it. Maybe I'll just put it down where everybody can see it. It says, Father, Son, one. So Father, Son is like one word. It's not two. I'll put it here where everybody can see it. Father, Son, one. Always, keyword, always, whole, perfect, and complete. There's no polar opposites in God. You know, like we sometimes think that somebody is bipolar. Well, everybody here is bipolar. Somebody might be a better demonstration than others of being bipolar, but your likes and your dislikes, what's good and what's bad, what's right and what's wrong, there's you and me, that's all bipolar. It says, all that is necessary to see God differently is to put on a magnetic mask that has opposite poles, and the mind becomes bipolar. So, yeah, the body is a denial of God's creation. Yeah, we say you didn't do a good job. You know, I can do better. So we actually made the ego. We actually made, the key word was made, the ego as a alternative to creation, and said, you know, this artificial intelligence, which is what ego is, this artificial intelligence can make worlds and galaxies and make me a life in which I can be better. I can have more. I can be different. But you got to laugh at how we started this craziness, and of course, it is craziness. I mean, he uses the word insane, I don't know, 227, something like that, times insanity, insane. There's nothing here that is real. It's just a make-believe world, a virtual reality world, or what I'm using these days on TikTok. If any, I know a few of you are on TikTok and come visit. I'm talking about this simulator reality, this simulation, and you know, scientists these days, more scientists are joining into saying this world is nothing more than a computer simulation. I mean, 20, 30 years ago, they used the word virtual reality. People got goggles and went to the moon, went to the Sahara Desert, or you know, they went to Bali, Tahiti, yeah, and it was all virtual. Well, this world is a virtual reality. He's telling you that there is no world. If there is no world, then what are we looking at? We're looking at virtual reality or simulation reality or anything that you want to call it, artificial intelligence. That's not real. What's real is of God. What God creates is eternal. That's what makes it real. If something begins in time and ends in time, it's not real. You get that in lesson 133. Happens to be my birthday lesson, so pretty familiar with that one. The criteria for what has no value to you, the eternal, is if something begins in time and ends in time, it's valueless. Because what value is it to you, the eternal, if something comes and goes? That's what this life is. It comes and goes. There's nothing here. You don't take anything home with you. You notice that? I think I'll say that's it for right now. Over to anyone who wants to take it.
Thank you, Dov. I'm going to read the introduction to the workbook lesson by Ken, lesson 170. There is no cruelty in God and none in me. But I wanted to thank you, Sharon, and thank you, Karen, for your comments on Susan Segal's book. And also, Dov, actually, weren't you involved in TM, Dov?
I didn't hear you. What?
Weren't you involved in TM?
TM?
Transcendental
Or
meditation?
TM? No, I wasn't involved in TM. No.
Oh, okay. All right. But I appreciated what you wrote in the chat room about that bipolar mask. And I was thinking about that the other day in terms of there is no polarity in God. You know, beyond love and hate, there is only love. Beyond health and sickness, there is only health. You know, beyond good and evil, there is only good. And that gets back to what I was saying earlier about God is, love is, truth is, health is. And I'm actually working out. Speaking of not denying the body, I work out while I'm listening to you guys, so I'm a little out of breath here. But I've appreciated what Karen had told me about drinking protein for women, drinking protein before their workout, which I've changed to doing that. And I don't know if it's helping or not, but whatever. When I get into all these questions about the body, I just keep going to, I am sustained by the love of God, you know, or lesson 135, which says the body is in need of no defense. I just keep going there because if I don't go there and I get into all these different things of, oh, you know, it's funny, I like new exercise programs. So I love to exercise. But my former roommate, she every month she'd come up with a new nutritional program. Now she was taking this supplement, and then the next month she was taking a whole new regimen, and she liked to cook and stuff, and I can't stand being in the kitchen. So I'm very simple. It's like protein bars, protein shakes, forget it, you know, whatever's easiest is the way I go by it, which of course is all processed. So I shouldn't be doing that. But anyway, she was so funny because she would have a different regimen every month. And we would laugh. I say, you know, that's not going to be your savior. You know, this one's not going to be the one, you know, that changes everything. And it didn't seem to change anything that I could tell. But anyway, and then Mickey, I also appreciated what you wrote on the chat board about the cycle of hope and despair is your hamster wheel. Yeah, and it's been my hamster wheel too, but it's not anymore because I look at it and I go, oh, I'm noticing that one. And I can't remember if I mentioned here last week that I had gone through a couple days of really dark stuff last week, but it also kind of started floating in this week. And I was thinking, oh my God, that old self of me, that depressed, rageful, angry, hate the world, want to die. Oh my God, it's back. Oh no, I never thought it would come back to that degree. I had fleeting, thoughts, but I was always able to just go, no, not doing that. And when it came back for a couple days, it was like, oh man, whoa. Well, the thing also the other day when I said that I had the shift in perception to being grateful for how God is, what God is, rather than grateful that I'm not this rageful, depressed, angry, horrible person. No, I'm grateful for what I am. What came with that is um, I got the prompt to do a meditation with in one of Joe Dispenza's meditations about changing beliefs and perceptions. And he talked about the power of your decision being greater than the conditioning of the world and of the body. And that made me think of lesson 152, the power of decision is my own. And I think it's 236, I rule my mind, which I alone must rule. So I started feeling grateful and saying, hey, yeah, the power of my decision, that the Holy Spirit gave us choice to look at the world through the right mind instead of the ego mind. And that power of decision is greater than anything in the world. And that made me grateful. It's like, because I was feeling pretty much in despair, like, oh no, oh my God, this is back. And it's like, no, no, it's not, because that never was and it's never been real. And so uh, anyway, I was just very appreciative of that. And good morning, Glorian and Lindy. So let me check out the Ken Wapnick's commentary about this lesson. He says this is
Lori, I just want to comment real quickly before you go. Thank you so much for what you just shared on the power of decision, because on that power of decision, that's the key to freedom. And there's a quote from the course that really helps me, and it's about depression. And it says, depression comes from a sense of being deprived of something you want and do not have. Remember, you are deprived of nothing except by your own decisions, and then decide otherwise. So you can fill in the blank. Whatever your seeming problem is, we all know there's only one, but while we still believe in specifics, that it's always the power of decision. We just have to change our mind. We're deprived of nothing except by our own decision. It's just a belief. It's a belief, and that really helps me. So the power of decision is, I just can't let that go by, because to me, it's everything. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Karen, for that additional passage on that, because being deprived of nothing, and that's one of the things I started saying, I am so grateful. I am so grateful that I am everything and I have everything. And when I remember that, I don't feel like I'm lacking anything. And that's what had happened when I got back into that funk. It's like, I'm never going to get what I want. And of course, it was things in the world. And but I don't want things in the world. And so I was into my heart with gratitude of, I always get everything I want, because the ego gets everything it wants, even if it's crappy and nasty, that's what it wants. But what I really want is this, what we are talking about in this room, God, truth, love, to know that, we have everything. And yeah, Lynn, you wrote in the chat there, Joe Dispenza is brilliant. He is. And I had erroneously thought that he was getting into this rock star type of thing and into the power and the fame, but he's not. And maybe he was back then. I don't know, but he's not at all. He's so in line with the course, because he says you cannot change matter from the place of the ego. And even though he's kind of about changing matter, he's just meeting people where they're at. He knows that this world is a dream. He knows that the ego is nothing. It's just a matter of waking up. And he's so about, you're not the doer, you're not doing anything. And that's what the course says. And yeah, Karen, you just wrote, the power of decision is your one remaining freedom as a prisoner of this world. And Joe is just like the course. He's going, Use your power of decision. Use your will to choose truth, to choose love, to choose health, to choose freedom, just anything, but this world. So getting back to Ken's commentary on lesson 170, there is no cruelty in God and none in me. He says this is another important lesson where Jesus returns to a discussion of the ego strategy that culminates in its arsenal of defenses. The lesson is thus similar to what we discussed before in lessons 135, 136, and 153. If I defend myself, I am attacked. Sickness is a defense against the truth. In my defenselessness, my safety lies, which expose the ego's use of defenses to maintain its existence. We shall briefly review some key concepts by way of an introduction. And so when he talks, he relates this to sickness as a defense against the truth. I've been saying that lately, that when I see ego desires come up, I'll say, well, that ego desire or wanting that thing is a defense against the truth. When I see that person as a body, that's a defense against the truth. When I think that I can be sick physically, that's a defense against the truth. And that has really helped me. And Ken says, when we originally chose the ego over God's love, separation over atonement, we made a decision for individuality instead of unity. The ego feared we would recognize our mistake and reverse the decision, causing it to disappear into its own nothingness. To prevent this from happening, the ego devised a two-tiered strategy, a double shield, leading to the state of mindlessness. This ensured that, without awareness of the mind, we would never change it. The ego's first shield is sin, guilt, and fear, within which we are miserable sinners whose guilt deserves punishment, and thus we fear the wrathful God who would destroy us. This necessitates a second shield of the world and body, wherein the ego's thought system is projected into the world, establishing our bodies as innocent victims of the sins of others. And I would say, in my case, that after stopping projecting onto the world, I just projected it all onto the body. We tend to do that when we're spiritual students and we take responsibility. We stop blaming others, but then it all dumps into our own bodies or whatever. And Lynn, you're right. On the board, you wrote, any defense against the truth is sickness. Yes, the whole world is sickness. So in effect, these sinners are the authority figures, those we perceive with power over us. We meet throughout our lives as symbols of God's vengeance, stealing from us the most precious possession of all, our special self. If we are not careful, the ego cautions us, God will swoop down and smash our defenses, leaving us vulnerable to his brutal and vindictive punishment. And so that relates back to there is no cruelty in God and none in me. And I know that when I've gotten down and dirty in the subconscious about what am I afraid of, and it's like, God's going to kill me. If I do this, I'm going to die. God's just going to say, okay, you're done. You're out of here. And of course, actually, I wouldn't mind being out of the body, but still that fear of, God's going to get you for that. So I'm going to turn this back over to you now, Sharon.
Thanks, Lorri. Thank you so much. I'm having a mental block, but yesterday I went, her name's Amy, and I love her. And Dub was there. She has a Wednesday meeting, and she's a therapist, but she's a course teacher. What was her name, Dub?
Amy Torrey.
Yeah, I think she has a way of explaining things to in such kindness and understanding. And why am I mentioning her? Because I feel that the teachers that really, really resonate are the ones that know that this is not an easy process, because it's not. It's simple for sure. And I'm in the simplicity, but it's not necessarily easy, because falling and forgetting is always going to happen until it's not. This is really going on the personhood doesn't have anything to do with it. So the infinite is waking everyone up as it unfolds. But there are times that it becomes difficult. And even if you see the person as someone healed, it's best to meet them where they are. And that's just always been a big thing for me because, I've sponsored people over the years, and some people are really, really suffering, believing their concepts. But I want to read this because this is important. This is from Ken Wapnick. The purpose of defenses is to protect us from our fear, but they merely reinforce it. Now, that's really the truth, because if you notice in your mind all day long, it's a loop that goes around and round and round and saying the same thing. But because this mind's sleeping, I feel like, yeah, I feel that way. No, there's nothing out there, right? This establishes a vicious circle. This is why no one's body is truly healed and no problem in the world is truly resolved. No one goes to the source of the problem, the mind's decision to be on its own. So it's always about our mind. If I think I'm a person, there's no way I can give this up. Are you kidding me? But if we look at it as a projection coming from my mind about Sharon and all the dreamers that she has put in her dream, it brings me back to just realizing that there's nothing here. I'm a mind, and I remind myself, and if I fall short, I quickly forgive it. And how do you do that? You just look and judge not, right? So those who project are vigilant. Now, this is what Ken put in from text chapter 7. Those who project are vigilant for their safety. This is why that I always did use my defenses, because, I was scared. I mean, I was really scared. We're all scared. We're scared because we don't really belong here. The character is a thought. But I'm not afraid anymore. The fear is subsided. But, just as Lorri shared, you might have days where you're going to get into heavier, deeper things where, a lot of our self-hatred is really coming. And that's what Amy Torres had shared, that it's so depth into the mind that these things are coming up now, and they're saying, hi, I'm still here. So anyway, believing they have blotted their projections from their own mind, they also believe their projections are trying to creep back in. Since the projections have not left their minds, they are forced to engage in constant activity in order not to recognize this. And that's truly like, I'm even stopping the snacking now, realizing that mine wants to eat more than it needs to. Spirit needs nothing. Over to you, Dove.
Okay, yeah. As long as you brought up Amy Torres, I'm going to say a few words. It has something to do with what happened here at ACIM Gather. I originally met Amy through John Mundy. Now, she was, believe it or not, she started out in the community, not as a teacher. She started out she started out as a yoga instructor, a yoga teacher, and I met her through John, and of course, she did have a practice where she worked with people and in therapy, which she does have a license. And I said to her, why don't you come to ACIM Gather and teach? And I want to thank her for mentioning it. Some of you visited the last time that John Mundy had her on as a guest, which was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and maybe a week ago, I'm not sure. She said that she wants to thank Dove for inviting her. That was the first time that she was given an opportunity to actually teach. And that's the purpose of ACIM Gather. The purpose of ACIM Gather is for people to realize that we are all teachers of God. We're all teachers of God, but it's about developing trust. It's trust in that, knowing that I don't need to know anything. I don't need to understand what the Course is saying to be a teacher of God. People say, well, I'm not there yet. I haven't done enough lessons, or I got to do the book again, or whatever. But the thing that makes a teacher of God a teacher of God your willingness to just say, I do not know what anything is for. I'm here only to be truly helpful. And I don't have to know what to say or what to do. He who sent me will give me and direct me. So that's how we all develop as teachers. That was my original experience way back when I started a group, and I was asked to start a group in Greenwich Village, New York, where I remember it was New Year's Eve 1980 when someone said, "Hey, let's start a group at my home." And David, I wasn't Dove in those days. David, why don't you be the moderator? And my mind said, I can't do that. I'm halfway through the lessons. I've never even opened the textbook ever. I have no idea really what the course is about. But even though that was going on in my mind, out of my mouth, I said, okay, I'll do it. And that only came really, I had done some work on myself prior to ever finding the course. People know a thing called S, which Gary Renard says the same thing. He said he could probably never do the course if he didn't do S first. So S tells you very quickly how the ego operates. And once you understand how the ego operates, you don't listen to the BS that's going on in your mind. So I was able to just clearly say, okay, I'll do it. And that's exactly what an invitation to ACIM Gather is. It's an opportunity to say, okay, I'll do it. And I don't have to know what to say or what to do, even though we say you can do anything you want. You can open up the book and do a lesson, read from the text. Anything you want to do is fine. It's about, I mean, that's how Regina started. That's how Lisa Natoli started. And that's how Amy started. And now, and I'm so happy I went there yesterday, and Rafi was there. Rico was there. They heard about it, I guess, through being here. And here's Zuma and Lindy.
Actually, I emailed Amy and asked her if she would mind if I sent out her thing to everybody on our list.
Good.
So I sent it out to everybody on our list, and now she's going to come in on a Tuesday evening and give us a little intro talk. So and she might even be willing to come in and join some of our groups. So I've been conversing with Amy about coming on over back together. So very exciting for me. Anyway, continue, Dove.
That's it. That's basically it. To invite, if you know anyone in the course, invite them. I'm always inviting. I did hear Karen say the other day. That's the kind of kindness when you're kind to say to another person, hey, we would love to have you take your place among the teachers here at Gather. And I know we always say, I love us. We are a loving community, but it all starts with letting go of fears and developing trust. Trust being the bedrock of God's teachers. That's it.
Yeah, Dove, and that's it. Too, as far as this whole community is kind of like, I it's kind of like you just fathered an entire community here that has spread out all over the world. Now Lisa and Bill are moving to Portugal, so we're international. Susie's in Bali. This is. Of course, we always have other people in other countries, but I'm just saying we've grown so much, and because of your insistence, really. And I don't think there's a lot of people who have come and gone because they said, Duff keeps telling me to pick up the mic and teach, and I don't like that. And then they come back later. So I appreciate it so much. Anyway, I'm on my new computer, I believe I'm being heard on Pal Talk, and I believe everything is working as I think it should. Oh my Lord, I'm so excited. Karen has her hand up, and I'll let her go before we turn over to Zoma if Zoma does not mind.
Yeah, I just want to thank Dov for that. And I really appreciate that he does that because it's not only kindness, it's like it's practicing or I should say it's demonstrating it's demonstrating that we are one. It's demonstrating like the teacher of God, the only qualification is that you have the same interest. You see that you have the same interest. And when you trust, you're trusting that you're not different from your brother. We're all the same here. We all have the same interest. There's nothing, there's no love doesn't have competition. There's no competition. There's only equals. Only equals are at peace, you know. And when I'm seeing my brother as different, I'm seeing him as better or worse. But when I see my brother as equal, I'm trusting and I'm seeing we're all the same here, you know, and nobody's higher. There's nobody, no teacher that's higher. He might know a little more, you know, book wise. He might even wrote a lot of books. You know, it doesn't mean none of it means anything, you know, and that's what I love about Dove because he really, really makes you feel like an equal. And I think that is so important. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. And that's being treated as a grown-up by other grown-ups. It's like you don't recognize you're actually grown up until other grown-ups see and treat you like you're grown up. And that's what it feels like to me. When I came in here, you know, Dove treated me like I was like I knew something and like I had something and I was valuable. And that I can I don't even know how if you understand how brilliant that is. That's all Jesus is asking us to do is to look at these brothers, look at them and see we're all valuable. We all hold and have something that is a part of God that God is incomplete without. So you know when he says God is incomplete without me, it's true. And the only way I can be complete is to take my place. And my place is among the teachers of God. And like I said, I'm just so grateful. And Dove, I'm sure I can't even imagine that you understand what that means to me. But you know, you've definitely in more than one way saved my life. So I'm so grateful. Um, all right, I'm going to go ahead and turn off this YouTube. Oh, oh, oh. I'm on the wrong. I'm doing it on the other tab.